Hello and welcome to Suddenly Single, the new and hilarious dating podcast.
Where we're going to get our celeb mates to tell us about their dating disasters.
We're also going to have a few experts in the studio to tell us where you and I are going wrong.
Come on, and I don't think you've got enough makeup on.
I need the sun, I need inspiration. I just want to get out of here.
Very keen to chat to our next guest, Alex Best. Some people would know her name, but everybody would know who her ex-husband is.
George Best. Most amazing footballer. For those of you that don't know who he was, he's bigger than David Beckham. They were together. He's been dead for 19 years. They were together for 12. There's quite a big age gap between them. And obviously he was drinking quite a lot at the time. So it'd be nice to know whether she's dating now and how you replace somebody of that kind of ilk.
I just want to get out of here.
Alex Best, thank you for coming on Suddenly Single. Are you single?
I certainly am, yes.
For people that don't necessarily know the background or your story, is that you were much younger when you met your ex-husband, who is one of the most, it's probably, it's okay to say that he was like the David Beckham of his time, wasn't he?
I think
as famous, as revered.
Absolutely.
Lots of fans out there, which is short for fanatics that
and
loved
still
him.
has to this day. Still
Really?
is absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he's a legend. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think George in the 60s, you know, I mean, he was the original David Beckham.
Yeah.
He had the good looks, the fast cars, you know, he was
patter.
fantastic. Yeah, the naughty boy kind of thing going on.
And how old were you when you met him, and how old was he?
I met him when I was 22.
Wow.
And we got married when I was 23. And George was 47.
Wow.
So it was quite a big age difference.
So you fell in love very quickly.
Yeah, we did.
I was going to say that. It was the wow moment when you met him
It
then,
was.
because
I mean,
that's an instant.
Yeah, it was. And when I met him, George's first thing he said was, I'm going to marry you. And I went... But it's really weird because we kind of like had this, I know everyone says, but we had this really good connection. And we found the same things, we had the same things in common. And being with him, even though he was a superstar, it was just like, he was so down to earth.
So where was it, Alex? How did you meet? Remind everybody.
I met him in Tramp.
Oh, wow.
But of course,
Famous nightclub.
George would always be in Tramp. He was in there, well, it was practically part of the furniture.
Is Tramp
in
the
there.
nightclub that had the illuminated dance floor?
It was downstairs, yes.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Royals used to go there.
It was-
That must have been a hell of a time.
It was fantastic. You know, who's who in there and everything, and it's a really good fun
So
place.
did he make the move, or did you make the move?
Well, I just split up with my previous boyfriends, and my friends had to drag me out because she was like, "Oh no, I don't want to go out. Oh no, I'm too devastated." and so anyway, we got invited to go to Tramp. It's the first time I'd been there, and the girlfriend that I was with, she knew George, and I ended up sitting next to him. And then we got chatting, and then that was it after that. Living under a stone, when if you didn't know who George Best was. And I've been brought up with rugby. My dad's a massive rugby fan. He's never been into football, so rugby's always been part of my childhood. But I mean, he was just very charismatic.
Was he?
Funny.
So he would make the effort, and he didn't rely on the fact that he was good looking and established.
No.
He charmed you.
He was very interested in people, and he was, I mean, beautiful blue eyes, but he was just very charismatic, very down to earth, and very charming. He had kind of this aura around him. I mean, my mum's the same age as George, so I remember my mum was cleaning the windows, and I said, "Mum, I'm going out tonight." She said, "Oh, great, lovely. Who are you going out with, darling?" I said, "Well, I don't know whether to tell you or not. I'm going out with George Best." She went, she fell off a ladder. What? And of course, she is from Manchester, and she'd been, you know, in the same age.
Of course.
So she knew, you know, Manchester in the 60s. So she knew exactly. And my auntie had actually been out with him in the 60s.
No
Yes.
way.
Yes.
So your own auntie, it was destiny, wasn't it?
It was my uncle's wife.
Right.
And she was a model in the 60s,
Yeah.
and
Right.
she'd had a dalliance with George, so of course.
And did they ever meet?
They did, and he didn't remember who she was.
Oh no,
That's not that surprising.
mortifying.
is it,
I
you know?
think she felt a bit, sure you should have remembered me. But
So how long were you together then? Because it must have been very intense. Very young, married very quickly.
How quickly did he ask you to get married if you were married a year later?
We met in the July, and at the time I was flying for Virgin, so I was
Yeah.
always away, and so we kind of like, it fizzled out after a while. Then I bumped into him again in the Dover Street Wine Bar on my birthday, and he was there, and he said, well, I better buy you a bottle of champagne then for your birthday. And then from then on, that was January, that was full on then, and he proposed to me in the May, and we got married in the July.
Wow.
And he organised the wedding. I didn't have anything to do with it. So he went into
In a
Chelsea.
nice way, or?
No. I mean, to be honest, it was fine. I thought it was very romantic. And he organised the cars.
Did you pick your dress?
No, I picked my dress.
Okay.
That's one thing I had to do.
Okay.
So he went down to Chelsea Registry Office one morning, and he queued there for a while, and he came back. He didn't tell me. He says, we're getting married next Monday at 10:30. It's like, oh! But he didn't want anybody to know, because he didn't want to make a bit. He didn't want people finding out. He wanted it to be private. And of course, this guy owed him money, so he told the guy that owed him money, right, you've got to sort the wedding out. You've got to sort the cars out. You've got to sort the registry office and
Wow.
the singer and everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was very, weak. My dad was like, oh my goodness, he didn't know till about 4 days before the wedding, and.
But they were fine with it.
Yeah,
they
I mean,
were fine with
Dennis
the age
Law
gap.
came, and all the Man United, his friends came, and all our friends came. And from what was very last minute, was everyone said the best day they'd had.
There's a lot of love on the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you look at it back now, do you still have the same version of events in your head, thinking, oh my God, I was so young though, and I would have liked to have chosen this, or actually it was so romantic, and that's why I fell in love with him?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a very good organiser anyway, so I much prefer somebody to do it for me, so it suits me fine. But no, I think it was really romantic, and I think it's, best possible day, I think, of my life, to be honest.
How long were you together then?
We were together we married 10 years.
What? So 10 years? I've never done 10 years of anything. So
I know. We do talk
So
about this.
that's a hell of achievement for somebody that is incredibly famous, and the maelstrom, the storm that goes around that type of personality is enough to spit lots of people out. Wives, children, parents, family. So you stuck together. Did you hold on to each other in that 10 years?
I think we did, but also George was a very private person. He didn't really like any of the celebrities, premieres and things like that. He wasn't really into that kind of stuff. So we kept ourselves to ourselves. We had our own quiet group of friends and family. We were very, very close to my family. So it worked.
And you got out of, I suppose, at the time that you were together and married together, there wasn't social media.
No.
There wasn't even
it's a lot
phones that you could
easier.
take pictures of. There was a lot of paparazzi, but you kind of knew where they were going to be or what to expect from them.
Yeah. So I think life was a lot easier in those days than it is now.
Can I ask you a sideways question?
Yes.
And it was written, obviously, in the papers, and so you tell me or not if it's true. George haunts you?
He doesn't haunt me,
Right.
but there's funny little things after he died that happened. I was getting ready to go to his funeral, and I just put my coat on, ready to walk out the door, and the shower turned on by itself. Just little, these little tiny things. But signs. That's what exactly, Tim. Signs. But no, he doesn't haunt me.
But was your gut that it was him saying
Yes.
hi?
I mean, I believe in these kind of little signs.
Had it been on your mind when that happened?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you think, am I making it out? But when the shower turns on its own, maybe something wrong with the plumbing at the hotel, I don't know. But it's reassuring as well. It makes you feel comforted,
Yeah.
So when you divorced and then he passed away 3 months later, you then eventually met somebody else, and that lasted 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
You were still young.
Yeah.
You were still, in the first not flesh, but you were certainly somebody that could think, right, I could do anything with my life. And you met somebody. What was the difference between the first relationship and marriage and your second one? Do you take the lead much more, or was it a different type of experience?
What it was that happened, I mean, he was a lovely, lovely man, and we were engaged. But when I was with George, I was kind of like the one that looked after him and made the decisions, and bought the houses and sorted the money out.
Okay.
And with the
So he was a man-child.
Yes, and I liked being in that position, and George liked me.
Interesting.
He liked being controlled. I wouldn't say controlled. But
He liked someone who sorted his life out.
his life out for him. It made him a lot easier for him. And my fiance, he was the other way round.
Right.
So we kind of like clashed a bit. So, I mean, we really got on well when we got on well, but it didn't work out for those reasons at the end of the day.
So that was 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Been single since.
Well, I've had a few. I had
Yeah.
a couple of relationships. I had a year-long relationship.
Some dalliances.
Yeah, and then I had a relationship for another year. It's nothing serious, not living together or anything. But I think part of the fact that I'm single now is because all of my early life I was in relationships. I think now I've got the confidence and I'm older and I've been there and I've seen that. I don't mind being on my own so much.
So would you like to meet somebody?
I would like to meet somebody, but I'm not desperate. And I'm of the opinion that if I meet somebody, that's fine. If I don't, that's fine also.
Yeah. But are you on any dating apps then, you know?
Well, I'm not very good with computers and I'm not very good. I did try once. I tried that Bumble, whatever it is, once. And I was
A to B.
I was swiping the wrong way and I wondered why it all went terribly wrong. But I never went on a date. So
Were you
so
saying
that's
yes
good.
to everyone or no to everyone?
I was swiping the ones that were not very good. I was
you were saying yes to them?
Yes. But I'm quite lucky. I've got some really good mates who are men. And they've had their children and they want single lives. And it's nice because, you know, he wants a companion for dinner and I want a companion for dinner.
Perfect.
So we just, as friends, go out for dinner. So I'm not short of male companions as friends, which works out well for me.
But you have got a dog.
I have.
Yeah,
So-
you see, they're surrogate boyfriends.
You see, he's
I
my
think.
boyfriend.
They never answer back.
No.
They watch telly with you.
And he
they
watches
don't
every
change the
programme that I
channel.
want to watch on telly. He doesn't ask me to turn on the football or anything.
Oh,
so-
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's maybe a plus that you
Are
no
you
longer
into
have to watch
football?
football.
Do you watch any football
No.
now?
No,
or-
no, not at all. No. I've never really understood the game, even though I've been to hundreds of football matches. I just sit there studying the programme back to
Yeah.
front.
Yeah. Did George like that about you, though, the fact that you were removed from something where he was idolised? He could actually have a conversation with you about something that he's not
Yeah.
being seen as the footballer, he's being seen as the man.
I think so, yeah. And also because I suppose, you know, even though he's football and he loved football, it's his passion, it must get pretty wearing talking, you know, everybody came up to George in interviews and everything, it always was about football.
Yeah.
So I suppose in a way it must have been nice to talk about different, like furniture or different things, you know, rather than ask the same football question all the time.
So you didn't have children with George,
No.
but you do have a stepson.
Yeah.
He's quite well known, Callum. He's in his 40s now, I think.
He's 43 now.
40, is he?
Yeah.
Wow. Does he ever give you dating advice?
No, I don't. I mean, when I bump into Callum, I bump into him, we'll have a cuddle and say hi. But I don't really keep in contact with him, you know, with birthday message or
Okay.
how you doing? Haven't spoken to you for a while, you know, text, how you doing? No, but I don't think you should give me advice, really.
Yeah, because there's only probably, what would that be, like 6 years between
No,
you?
there's 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, which was strange. I mean,
yeah.
when I first met George, Callum was 13 and I was like 22, 23. I always treated him as like my younger brother.
Yeah. Okay. It's
Which
probably quite a good way
You
to
have
do
to
it.
do it because otherwise, yeah. But now we're kind of like the same age, really. So it's
Yeah.
quite strange.
Do you feel that George was the love of your life and nobody would be able to replace him and then it's therefore harder to date? Or do you just think, I put so much into that relationship and I'm quite happy treading water a bit now?
No, George would always be the love of my life. Absolutely, without a question of a doubt. And I take every single relationship for different. I don't compare everybody to George.
Yeah.
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
And I like people for their different qualities
Yeah,
of
completely.
who they are.
And that's a healthy approach.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, it's not because I don't want to date. I'm open to it. But I'm not really looking for it. I'm not that on the computers. I've got quite a few friends that just can't be single at all. You know, one goes, it's like a conveyor belt, the next one's along, and you know, but no.
I think also as you get older, you're looking for different things, aren't you? I mean, you wouldn't want at 22 going to Tramp nightclub with a celebrity, which he was, is extremely exciting.
Oh gosh, yeah.
If I had to do that tonight, that's quite exhausting. Or I want to go, but I want to leave by 9.
I know, but the thing is, I can't even, friends say, we're going to dinner, what time? About 8:30. I'm like, I'm just getting ready for bed at 8:30.
Yeah.
I find it exhausting even to put makeup on nowadays or get ready.
Yeah.
So, when you're young, you've got that zest for life
Yeah.
and you can stay up till 2 in the morning and whatever. And you can go out at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
But no, also when you're younger, you're kind of like looking for the partner and you're looking for marriage, children, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think when you get into, I'm 52 now, and I think it's not about that. It's more about companionship in your older years. I mean, I find at the moment, I think, gosh, when I'm 70 and I don't have children, who's going to look after me?
Yeah.
So I better get my skates on now, really.
Yeah.
And you better be younger so you can look after me, when I'm older.
But also, I think when you become older, you're wiser as well in certain
it's
respects,
true.
and you just think, well, actually, that isn't the reason to be with that person or that thing. What would be your ideal man now, then, or a broad description? Similar age, somebody that's obviously into dogs.
Yes,
Could be a
definitely.
dog lover.
He's got to definitely be a dog lover.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've always gone out with the older men, but now that just wouldn't work. That wouldn't work. So, I think,
Why?
well, because they'd be like 17. They'd be putting them into a home by now, wouldn't I? So I'd be looking after them. I need someone to look after me from now on.
Yeah, of course. No, it's a fair point, though, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think my age, definitely.
You were on, I think you would say earlier that you were on I'm a Celebrity with Katie Price,
Yes.
who was also a guest on Suddenly Single. And that's when she fell in love with Peter Andre.
Yes.
What was it like being close up to seeing two people that were celebrities?
We didn't have a clue.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because, I mean, we could see them flirting with each other, but because you can see everything at home on television, we couldn't see all of that.
So it's the highlighted bits, we got a better view of it.
I mean, we did notice because Peter had this hammock and he kept falling out of it. Because when you get into the jungle, you have to make your own beds, and then there's one less bed, so there's a hammock, and it's not very comfortable, and he kept falling out of it. So Jenny Bond and I felt sorry for him. So Jenny said to me, well, should we do top to toe and let Peter have my bed for the evening?
Oh.
So we said, yeah, that's fine. So we slept top to toe. And then in the middle of the night, Jenny opened up and looked at her bed and Peter wasn't there. And kind of looked over and he was in with Katie.
So you were top to toe with
So
Jenny
that was a
Bond,
clue.
royal correspondent, and he wasn't even using his line. Was there any love interest for you in the jungle?
No, there wasn't, no.
For those who are younger than all of us, might know the name of George Best but not know the legacy, can you give us an example or an insight of how insanely famous your lifestyle was at the time? Because the paparazzi, would be climbing out of windows and trees to try and get shots of people and chase people down the street. I assume it was like that for you
It was
guys.
like it with us, but obviously not as, George for the younger people was kind of like David Beckham, I'd say, times 5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was the first footballer to actually be of pop
Yeah. Yeah.
culture,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Before you had the Bobby Charltons and they had the wives at home and everything. George was very, very good looking, very, single, loved dating women.
We dated Miss World. and
Oh,
all
yeah,
kinds of
Miss
stuff,
World.
yeah. Did you ever feel
Called out of
intimidated for his
pubs.
exes then? Or did you just think, well, no, he likes me and that's
Yeah,
enough?
no, fine. No, absolutely.
Was
I
that
would
difficult,
been
though?
pretty intimidated. He had so many of them, so, just felt that he wanted to marry me. And that's what I think also he thought that people wouldn't take us seriously with the age gap.
Right, which is a valid point,
But,
actually.
yeah.
And it's like Beyonce, he's put a ring on it,
Yeah.
and we're
To
here.
say, look, this isn't a joke. This is serious.
Is it exhausting though? But being with someone but presumably women were throwing themselves out every time you went out.
We had quite a quiet life. We just, George, when we lived in Chelsea, had his own local and he was very much protected in
Yeah.
that space.
Okay.
Very much protected. And we had he had friends that were famous, and very, very, they looked after him as well. But we had our own
Inner circle.
and also we had our own families, which we were really, really close to. And, you know, even my mum used to say when we were out for dinner, why are they looking over here? And she forgot that George was who he was, because to her and the family and my friends, he was just George, just
Yeah,
George.
your husband by then.
Yeah.
Was his drinking a remedy, a medicine to deal with all that fame?
Yeah.
Is it just because it's a lot of pressure all the time?
It is. I think also when George stopped playing football, it was kind of like his life, that's what he lived for, and his life was taken away. And I think it was something to fill up his time. You know, he didn't play golf. He was very shy as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was extremely shy. So, you know, it was Dutch courage as well that he used the alcohol for.
Right.
Too.
That must be quite seductive if somebody that famous is vulnerable to you. You really do feel like you want to look after them and organise them.
And George was one of these kind of people that you felt that you had to look after and you wanted to look after.
Yeah. You didn't begrudge it.
No, he had kind of like this lost persona about him that you just wanted to put your arms around him and cuddle him and just look after him.
But presumably by the end, the drinking was one of the reasons that you two were divorced shortly before he died.
Yeah, because George was very, very ill and he had a liver transplant.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was it. That was meant to be. That's forever. And also when George wasn't drinking, and I had quite a good few years of him not drinking, you see the most amazing. He was like Jekyll and Hyde. When he was sober, he was just total different character, and George would have hated the drunk George.
Really?
That's how different they were. And because we'd had such a lovely time, you know, living in Ireland, him being off the alcohol, and then after the liver transplant, when he started drinking again, I thought, oh, please, because he had antibiotics, pellets going into him to stop him from drinking. So I thought, no, he can't possibly be drinking again. And then I found empty bottles, and I thought, well, here we go again.
Yeah.
And then it was obviously, you know, to me that was it. If you have a liver transplant, you can't stop drinking, then that's it. And because I was trying to, he thought I was going to stop him from drinking. He kind of like did it in secret, and he went disappearing, and then, you know, after all we'd been through the transplant, and he died in the transplant, I just thought, and he turned into a totally different person, and I just thought, I'm now older, I've seen the great side of George, I just can't go through this again. I'll be there for him, you know, and I was, and whenever he had problems, he used to come and stay with me, but I was always there for him, but I just thought, you know, I'm in my 30s now, probably I'm thinking about having children and having a settled
life. It's
a
lot on your shoulders for such a young person to go through at that point.
I mean,
I felt the decision.
I felt really, really, really bad to make that decision, but then I thought, you know, I've got to put myself first now.
Yeah.
Did you want children with George?
Yeah, but it was never the right time.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I don't think it's ever the right time.
it isn't. No.
But you don't know that until afterwards, do you?
Yeah.
You know, hindsight's 20/20, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You've just given us the highlights of what you went through. I can only imagine how horrific it was for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Not just you and George, but your family, your mum, your dad, and everybody else that was around it.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I mean, being a married to an alcoholic, it affects everybody. Everything, everybody, friends, family, you know, children.
And it's 24/7, I imagine.
It is.
As soon as you wake up, you're wondering what's happening.
Yeah, and it's also the wandering. That's the problem. You think, you know, wake up in the morning, is he going to drink today? Is he not? And then when he's being so good, then you dread the...
Yeah.
He like woke up in the morning, you could tell he was going to be on a bender. The way he swept his hair back and his eyes took a different look, and you thought, oh no, here we go again. Is he going to turn up to jobs? You know.
Did you just leave, or did you tell him that you were going to leave? Because
I think gradually
he knew.
And I didn't just leave. We distanced ourselves, and I just thought, you know, George, if you want to go, if that's the path you want to take.
And you were still in your early 30s.
I was early 30s, yeah.
Bloody
I was
hell.
31.
Bloody hell. So when you separated, did you just cut off and go somewhere completely different to live for a while?
No, I stayed in the same house.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You just said...
Because I had the dogs there. George moved out, but then he was still welcome to come back, and he still used to come and, you know, stay, you know, the door was always open for him. And then it's when George died, I moved. And then I moved into Wimbledon Village, which was back into back into centre a bit, because I was out in the sticks.
Right. So you moved to Ireland at one point?
Yeah.
In your early 20s at that point?
Well, it was late 20s.
Late 20s.
We moved there because George is from Ireland, and we lived on the King's Road, and when he couldn't drink anymore, he wanted to escape the temptations. So we moved to this fishing village in the middle of nowhere, bought this house, and we spent the while doing it up and renovating it.
Was that fun? Or?
Which I did, and that's what I do for a living now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you do renovations and property development.
I've got my property portfolio.
Wow! Oh, fantastic.
That I rent. I'm a horrible landlord.
Yeah. If he wanted to remove himself to Ireland to get away from temptations, but surely at the same time that's called life, and he was cutting off life for you as well, though.
Yeah, that's true. But at that time, I just wanted him to be healthy, and I wanted to have my husband that's sober and nice. Yeah. So I mean, George was doing Sky every Saturday television, and he wasn't really well at the time. This is just for his transplant, and for him to go back to Isleworth to Sky and do Sky, Soccer Saturday, and then come back to Ireland in the evening, it was just getting a bit too much.
Yeah.
So we'd finished the house, and I'd found this other house I really liked. And he said, "You know, Alex, why don't we just move back home?" And I was like, "Yes, you said it, not me."
Yeah. And then that's when you moved back.
Yeah.
I think we should have an expert in.
I'll go and get one.
Have we got one?
I think so.
I just wanna get out of here.
Alex, please meet Michelle Elmond, who has a book out.
Yes, she does. The Selfish Romantic, which you could talk to her about that.
I know, exactly. Could have pictures of me in it. What tips would you give to Alex specifically if she's not been on any dating apps and is venturing into dating? And you might be saying, but we're all in our 50s, so it's slightly older approach to it.
I would say don't overwhelm yourself. Start with one and
Right.
just start, create that profile. And actually creating the profile, the best way you can do it is get a bunch of your friends around, make it a fun thing. I actually did this for one of my guy friends at the weekend, where he was having a nightmare time on dating apps, and I redid his profile, and it was because his first photo was a topless photo with him doing a handstand, and I was like,
No.
why is that your first photo? And he was like, because it's fun. And I was like, no, it's not. And so actually having other people's perceptions of your pictures on there, and also coming up with fun things to write on your dating profile.
So when you got the match and you've done the app, let's say you're on Bumble, you've done a couple of pictures, which are representative of you, Alex. That's how Alex looked, very pretty, with the dog, and that's it. Some funny little things. You've connected with somebody and started to have a little bit of rapport going on. How do you get it into the date then? What's reasonable in this day and age to move on to the next step of actually physically meeting them?
Well, traditionally, the man always had to ask out, but actually I don't think it's bad to just be like, hey, do you want to go for a drink? Or turning it into a phone call is even better, because the number of times I've got on the phone, because I don't have a lot of time, I don't want to be going on bad dates, that if I do a phone call. But it's true, nothing worse than getting you're 2 seconds in and you're like, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So get on the phone. And I've actually got on phone calls, and within 2 minutes of the phone call I've been like, this would not work. And so it's actually a great way to, you don't want to be going on bad dates, because it just means you go on the next date with worse energy because you're dreading it. Whereas if you do the phone call, it's almost like a hurdle before the first date, and just say, hey, I'm really busy today, I don't love texting, can we just pick up the phone? Is usually what I say to get it off the dating app. And then you do the phone call goes great. Hopefully that's when you actually make a plan, ask someone out, have some sort of fun activity. I'm not a big...
Fun activity, so you wouldn't just have a coffee and meet somebody?
I played squash on my last date, it was really
For your
fun.
first date?
No, it was a third date.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
I can understand that then, because you've got some understanding of the other person. But
The
first date, you wouldn't go for squash or
The last
bowling
first date we went and played arcade games.
I went on a date, and I think it's our second date, and he took me to go ape.
Wow, that's quite good,
No, it
isn't
wasn't.
it? Why?
That would
Oh,
terrify
it was.
me.
I'm terrified of heights.
I've done go out. Makes my legs shake.
It's really awful. Then I got stuck to this net, and I just couldn't move from this
Oh,
net.
no.
Somebody had to come and get me down.
Oh,
Bless you, but you went on the date though.
I went on the date.
Was that
Yeah.
the last time of that?
No, actually, went out for a year after that. But as long as we never,
he was
never
trained.
went
It's
to.
bonding then. You like, let's not do this
Yeah,
again.
but
and he wasn't doing alcohol.
no, but I'd rather go to the pub.
Yeah,
Me
have a
too.
glass of wine.
Me too.
Right, should we do Goldfish
Yeah,
Bowl of
yes.
Truth?
I just wanna get, just wanna get out of here.
So, guys, this is the Goldfish Bowl of Truth. Alex, because you're our VIP guest, you can go first. We can all have a go at answering the question as well.
I've got my glasses on.
Do you want me
I
to
don't my
read it?
age.
Yes. Let's have a look. What does it say? Have you ever had 2 romantic relationships at the same time?
No, I haven't.
No, I'm not
That's really
surprised.
boring. That's really boring.
No, it's not boring.
It's not. It
It's
makes
not
you.
boring.
It makes you a decent
I'm a-
person. Thank
I think
you.
there's a sliding
One-
scale. If a romantic relationship, yes for you, seeing somebody for a couple of months, seeing who you like.
Yeah, I not.
Married 10 years, 2 romantic relationships, terrible. You know that you're trying to
Yeah.
have.
But also, I wouldn't
Okay.
term what I was doing as 2 relationships at the same time.
But it's
I mean, I don't
romantic.
think
Too
it's
romantic. Can you
different
have
when
two
you
romantic
first meet
at the
No.
same
someone,
Well,
time?
some
or if you
people
married
can.
for
And,
20
like,
years
some
and have an
people
only
affair.
go for
So
years.
yeah, there is a
Yeah,
sliding
well, yeah, I
scale.
suppose they do. But then obviously, you're not really romantic with each other if you're doing it at the same time. I don't find it.
Well,
I
you're not
agree.
being. Yeah, I completely agree as well. Okay. Your neck. We go.
What was the most romantic thing anyone has done for you? I guess my proposal was quite romantic,
God,
even though it's
yeah.
an ex-fiance.
But on the night or the day, what happened?
We went paddleboarding, which is my favourite thing to do, and then it was actually so it was in mud. I was in like a scrappy painting shirt covered in it was half bleached and really raggedy shorts, but I just loved the fact that it was so me, and he knew that was
What?
that was
Personal.
what. Yeah.
Aw.
Did you have any inkling he was going to do it?
We had gone ring shopping, so I didn't know it was coming, but it had been I didn't know it was going to happen while paddleboarding. No.
No. That's...
But yeah, it was. I mean, it's bittersweet telling it now because ex-fiance and we broke up the next day because
next
The
day?
next day.
The next day because
And you found out he was cheating.
Well, I found out he was
Had
cheating
you
because I
asked him if
announced
you
my
were
engagement, and then a
exclusive?
woman
Oh,
sent me a
no.
message. Well, one of the readers of my books, when I announced the engagement, I shared his photo for the first time, and that's how I discovered he was cheating the next day.
Awful.
So,
What a 24 hours for you.
24 hours engagement, yeah.
Oh
Wow.
my goodness.
I'm only 5 months out, so I probably am not the
I'm
most
sorry.
healed,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I do
That's
think I have gone on
terrible.
dates since, which has been fun, and but I do think it does help. It does help being a life coach to be able to bounce back from
processed
it.
it, yeah.
And ultimately, I just believe there's so many women who've been cheated on who feel ashamed and embarrassed, and I just think it's got nothing to do with you.
Definitely
It's
nothing
not
to do with
a
them.
reflection of your worth,
Yeah.
and so it's actually been quite empowering, holding my head up high, especially in the public.
But
Of
thank
just
God you got out then, and
I
not
know.
whilst you were married. That would
also
have been
thank God I
terrible.
shared him because I'd kept him private online for 3 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't think I'm going to be able to.
match that.
What is the must-have in a partner? Sense of humour.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Sense of humour. If you can't laugh with them,
No.
I'm going home
And
now.
fidelity, you know. somebody
Well,
that's
actually, I'd
gonna-
like somebody who wasn't cheating. That would be up there as my second most important thing. Probably, actually, my first important thing. I don't know. They're pretty much on a par. I couldn't be with someone who didn't have a sense of humour.
Right, okay. All right.
Tim.
Okay. Have you ever been asked out by someone of the same sex?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't think it's even a big thing these days, is it? You know,
No.
I think it's
think
more
how
of a
you
big
deal
thing
with it.
now because you'd assume people know what your proclivities or orientation is. But when you're younger, it's kind of everybody asks all kinds of stuff, don't they?
I've never had it actually.
No, I haven't either.
Well, thank you very much for coming in. It's been absolutely illuminating, isn't it, really?
Yeah, has been.
Everybody's relationship is so you think you're going to know what their relationships are like or what their take on life is, but everything changes, doesn't it, as soon as you start talking?
Yes,
So
you've taught me a lot today. You really have.
I'll redo your dating profile for you.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
That would
There
be
you
fun.
go.
Happy to show you my dating profile.
And that'll be on the next Suddenly Single.
Yeah. Just wanna get out of here.
On this episode of Suddenly Single, we are joined by the gorgeous and honest Kelly Maloney, formerly Frank Maloney, one of the most famous English boxing managers, talking about her transition, her new life, and dating.